Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm LIANE. I'm LIANE. I'm LIANE. Are you ready to ride the Are you ready to ride the Freakwency?
Well, hello, and welcome back to Writing the Frequency. Today's guest is author David Tocher. David is an author, editor, and essayist from the Okanagan region of British Columbia, Canada. Known for his macabre storytelling, he has earned international acclaim for his imaginative fiction and thought-provoking themes. His works include the short story collection Letters from a Dead World, featuring an introduction by Nancy Kilpatrick, and the 2019 anthology Canadian Dreadful, praised by First Blood author David Morrell as a harrowing tour of the northern landscape that will leave you both dazzled and terrified. Tocher is also a producer of several films, including the 2024 remake of Spider Baby. And when not writing or exploring literary classics, he enjoys the unique charm of B-movie horror films. Welcome, David Tocher. Welcome to Writing the Frequency, David. Nice to have you.
Thank you, LIANE. I'm glad to be here.
Well, good. That makes two of us.
No, I think, yeah, we've known each other a while. This is the first time we've collaborated or something on some,
Yeah, it's actually true. It's been 10 years, and I had to embarrass myself earlier because I literally didn't. I was looking at your name. I was going, okay, Tocher. Tocher, Touché,
Yeah.
Target, Cartouche, Cartel.
My editor, who's edited all of my books, all of my stories since day one. When I think 2 years ago, she finally learned that my last name is pronounced Tocher, and she thought it was Tocher. So
See? Well, I mean,
it's a
Touché,
normal.
c'est très français and like adds
Très
kind of a
français.
je ne sais quoi,
Right.
which doesn't really rhyme with Tocher or whatever. It's all good.
When I lived in Montreal for a little while, the people there would get it close. They would say Tocher.
Right.
Very close.
You did that with a very
Close.
good Montreal accent, by the way. Tocher.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've been to Montreal once. I went up there for the film festival back in 1988, 87 or 88. I met my mom.
Fantasia Film Festival?
No, it was the Montreal Film Festival
Okay.
itself. And the film that I was in competition and won le Grand Prix d'Amérique, so that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
And randomly, Liv Ullmann was there, and this photographer guy that I sort of hung out with. His name was Pierre Rousseau is his name. And I think he lives, gosh, I want to say out in the Far East someplace. Not sure where he
In
moved.
Montreal. So in Montreal,
Oh, no, no. I mean the Far East. He moved away. He left.
oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's in China, but it's not Korea. It's some other place. I just don't remember what it is. Anyway, um, he casually snapped a couple photos that I still have here, and one of them happens to be with my mom talking to Lee Woolman, which is
Yeah.
kind of fun that they had run into each other like that. Um, yeah. And I've been to Vancouver 2 times, and I loved both times.
One of them was to film 21 Jump Street, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It was fun. I played Lauren, the student by day, the hooah by night. But really, it's
And the actor from Friday the 13th, Part 7 played your pimp.
David Kagan.
Did, yes.
Yeah, who's also, I think he's
And
still maybe an acting coach too, back out in the La La.
I
I
see.
should find him.
Last I saw he was teaching acting
Yeah,
and
that's what
that.
I'm remembering. So yeah,
Yeah.
if both of us are remembering that, then it's probably
Yeah.
we're not making it up.
It's not a Mandela effect, you
Not
know.
this time. Not this time, you Mandela affect you. Well, making me stutter. You're making me stutter, and you didn't do anything.
I have that
Kim,
effect on people.
well, you could have said on people. I'm glad you didn't say I have that effect on women, although either is funny, honestly. We could go to the cats. We could take this to the Catskills. Maybe we could make some money.
I
I
like money. I like
like
money.
money too. You
Yeah.
know, I've mastered many things. That's still in my unfolding. I have yet to figure that one out. But you never know. These conversations sometimes trigger ideas, and then sometimes we take action on these things and start flowing the flow. The faucet goes on. So who knows whatever triggers that. But I just know I'm having fun doing whatever it is I'm doing, um and I think that's that. That's full stop. Full stop. Regardless.
I think creatives one of our I wouldn't say it's a curse, but I would say it's a struggle. Is our I think with creatives, many of us struggle with things like, you know, turning our creativity into wealth, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. People who know how to market are not necessarily in the same lane, and sometimes they crisscross, but it's a different mindset,
Yeah.
you know. I remember the one time I did try to write something. I literally, I mean, I felt like for 3 days straight, all I kept saying was shh. I'm in the middle of a sentence. Shh. I got shh. Not, I'm trying to shh, right? For 3 days. But then I had a whole, I mean, it wasn't very good. I don't think it didn't. I got coverage for it, and the coverage wasn't good. And then I kind of just sat back down and never tried again. My mistake, though, for not continuing no matter what I heard. But I was in a very fragile place then. I was falsely confident in areas that were inappropriate and completely insecure in all the areas I needed to be secure to actually make stuff work. So, I think all in all, the experience that I had caused for myself was well worth it because it gives me a lot more to work with, and a foundation that's more well-rounded from which to fledge now that I've taken care of the whole family. Right.
Yeah.
So, but you
I
didn't have human babies. You had lots of book babies.
I
Like
have a lot of book babies.
I'm floored by the amount of book babies, and I know my audience is probably sick of hearing me babble. I've gotten that comment before, so maybe I'll just shush. And I mean, let's start by talking about the book that's out now that everybody seems to like a lot.
Yes, that one. I am very grateful for the readers who have been giving me positive feedback on this. I've been hearing from readers in Australia, readers in Ireland, readers in when I see my royalty report, you know, when I get my royalties, it's a full disclosure thing. So I see exactly which countries. Like Germany, people are buying the book in Germany, and like I'm going, wow, right? And so this I wrote this last year and published it in October, Spider Seeds. And I yeah, I was inspired to write this story from a nightmare I had in 2015. I woke up from a random dream. You know, you just wake up from a weird dream. It's like, what was that? Right. And it was basically, I watched a garden grow in time lapse speed in my dream. Like they're just that jiggity, jaggedy, really fast growing. And the plants grew, and then spiders sprouted on top. And unlike yourself, I have a little bit of a spider phobia. And I had the shivers there, and I thought, but as the horror writer that I am, I'm going, you know, this would be a really cool concept. I just need a story to hang this on, like a plot, to hang this concept on.
I'm sorry, what?
And so,
He says
and
he's insulted.
he's insulted.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I wrote with love for the spider in this.
Do you hear this? He
I
loves
wrote
you.
with love for the spider. I had to watch. I watched a whole bunch of spider documentaries.
Did
For
you
the
watch
for
Arachnophobia 15 times?
I didn't. Well, I did it when I was a kid. I did when I was a kid, right?
My ex-husband got really mad because my friend Mia and I went and we brought a bunch of spiders. And like every time the spiders came out, we would take a handful and throw them. And he got so pissed off.
Oh
Of course,
man.
we also dragged him to see Ghost. He hated Patrick Swayze, so we made him come see Ghost with us. He didn't want anything until after. It was just too late. That poor guy, we terrorized him. All right, sorry, like I did it again. I interrupted and took us off the path. Let's go back. Spider seeds and your nightmare of plants jiggity
Yeah.
jaggedy, and then spiders just.
Yeah. So the story is about a woman in her 40s who's an author, and she lives in Victoria, British Columbia, where I used to live there in my early 20s and part of my childhood. So I kind of wanted to mentally go back there. And so I did that through the form of telling the story. And she buys this exotic plant that has leaves that look like an actual spider. And when she gets the plant, she is told there's certain rules for taking care of it. She doesn't follow the rules. And she gets more than she bargained for, and she finds herself trapped in her apartment with a human, hungry for human flesh spider that she has planted, and it wants to eat her, and she cannot escape her apartment. And I had a lot of fun writing this. The story has been getting great reviews from readers. Um, one one of the people who gave it a review, a professional review, was Anthony Northrup, and he has done a lot of work supporting filmmakers, interviewing interviewing filmmakers and actors, and he's done a lot of work to promote the Dollar Baby community, the Stephen King Dollar Baby program, where filmmakers could make a film for $1 as long as they didn't profit off it, right? And so he's been a good friend and good colleague over the years. And he wrote a review, and it was a very positive review. And not only that, when he finished reading it, Anthony is like, and it's like, he's like, is there going to be a sequel? Are we going to learn more about this? Is there going to be this? Right? He's got all these questions, and I'm going, and then and other people writing, is there going to be more? And so, yes, there's going to be more. I'm actually writing the continuation of it. So I ended it on a period, but the book left some open-ended questions, and I may as well answer them in another book. And I've already got it half written, so we're looking forward probably to a release later in 2025.
Why do I feel like this is a franchise, and why do I want to have conversations with you off camera after this about yeah, let's shoot this thing.
I think we should have those conversations
I
off
think so
camera.
too, because I know people. I know a guy who knows a guy, and attached.
Let's do it.
Right. Let's just stop talking, LIANE.
Yeah.
Continue. All right. So spider seeds. Everybody, if you're a horror fan, go get it because it's getting good reviews. If you're not a horror fan, go get it. Maybe you'll be a horror fan after you've done reading it and have arachnophobia too. Who knows?
I have found that even people that don't like horror who read my books are like, I'm not a horror fan, but I enjoyed your book.
Well, okay, so this is where I'm really, really, really bad. You sent me one of your books and I read it and I very much enjoyed it, but I don't remember which one. I think it was a bunch of different a
It was an
compilation.
anthology.
Was the
It was an
anthology.
anthology, and it was a collection of short stories by
Right.
various authors.
Okay.
I was the editor and curator, and I contributed one of my own stories.
Okay. So I'm not losing
And
my mind. It
you're
wasn't
not.
all about you. It was just a little bit of you. Thank you. I'll put links up for all of this stuff, you guys.
This is the one you have.
That's it. It's in LA. It's in storage. It's okay.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
I believe I mailed it to you.
You
Maybe
did.
you signed it. Yes.
Yes,
That
you
was
did. You
quite a while
dedicated
back.
it to me.
Yes, I
It's
did.
nice. Like that. We like that. So you started writing when you were little. Like, did
Yeah.
what happened? Did something just make you pick up what happened to
You
you?
know what? You know what did it, eh? When I was a kid, I would, you know, I always liked telling stories. I always liked books and movies. I was addicted. I loved having books when I was a kid. Even if I couldn't read them, if it was like a grown-up's paperback, I just wanted it, right? I had an attraction to books. But I remember that I saw a movie when I was a kid, and this movie is, of course, uh, pure cheese. And the director said he would never direct a movie again after he made this movie.
Wow.
And it bombed in the box office, and the star of the film, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the star of the film was like, that wasn't good for my career.
Okay.
But me, that movie will always have my heart. You know
But
when you just
you have to tell us what movie it is after that.
love a stinker? It's a stinker, but I just love it. Maximum Overdrive.
All right. I'm gonna have to go watch that now just because just because. All right, so you saw Maximum Overdrive and that made you it did something at you.
I had to tell stories. I had to write when I saw that. That movie just turned a switch in my head. The AC/DC soundtrack, that's how I discovered metal and hard rock. I went and bought every AC/DC album, as a
Wow.
kid. And every few years I'll watch the movie, just for nostalgia. And, it's it's corny, but it puts a little smile on my face. I think it's the first movie that actually really scared me because I'm a 10-year-old kid and I watched a steamroller run over a kid about my age. And you see the thing go over his head, right? And all that. You're not supposed to kill kids in movies.
Well, and kids aren't supposed to watch you kill kids in movies. Other kids aren't supposed. I mean, there's a rating for a reason. Yeah, I mean, right?
But I had to see it so bad. But that was the first film that really, really traumatized me.
Well, what made you
Uh,
want to see that movie in the first place?
just I loved the cover. I had like I thought the cover looked so cool. I heard it was about machines coming to life and taking over the world, and it just
That
drove my
concept just
imagination,
lit you up, I guess.
lit
Okay.
me up. And I love the movie to this day, but I do know it's a cheese fest. It's a total cheese fest. But it just lit my fire, and it made me want to write and create stories. And I have a box, and my family kept it for all these years, and I there's this box, and it contains books of all the stuff I wrote when I was a preteen and a teen, and I'd write novels, and I went back and read some of it, and I'm like, it's actually not bad. Right? When you realize it's like you don't, because when you're doing something, you may not realize or have the confidence in what you're doing, and then sometimes years later, after you develop, you're able to look back and realize, well, I did not know what this plot device was, but I'm using it intuitively, right?
Right.
You're
Right, right,
right,
right, right. Yeah.
and
I
going,
know exactly what you're talking about, but I would
yeah,
refer back to music and writing music and composition and the structure of a song and like, you know, that's all well and good, but just leave me alone. I don't want to think about the structure of a song. Stop it.
yeah.
I know, right? And then it ends up being, oh, you did A, B, C, A, B, C. I'm going, what? Oh, structure. Right. I remember you tried to tell me, but like it's just intuitive.
Yeah. When I read the book Acting, the First Six Lessons,
Duh.
there was a I watched a documentary with Jeff the Bridges family, where they because they're all a family of actors, and they are also Bo Bridges and another one of the Bridges women act out the scenes of the first six lessons. And there's a part where Jeff Bridges, in the interlude, he's being interviewed, and he says, learn all the techniques, do your scene study, all that sort of stuff. But when you actually get on camera, that's when you give it all, throw it all away. And he says that it's like a prayer. Thy will be done. You give it all up, and then you just enter into it. And when he said that, it was like, when even though like he's an actor, I'm a writer, but when he said that totally translates across all arts. And when he said, learn all the skills and techniques and everything, and plan everything, but then when you go to do it, let it all go. And that was like the perfect way to help an artist in any type of art find that balance between the two. right? And I found that so helpful. And so there's a point where you, as an artist, or when you're writing, I'm not a pantser. I don't start from scratch and just wing it. I tried that. My brain doesn't work that way. Um, Plotting as a whole is a big waste of time for me, and right. But what I found is that through because through studying how the film industry works, screenwriters write a treatment before they write the screenplay. And I went, hey, it's basically writing the story, right? And so it's writing the narrative, and it's a form of you can stress test it. I'd rather learn in 10 pages that my story's crap than figure it out in 250 pages and go, oh wait, I wrote a stinker. This is going nowhere, because I've done that early on, right? It'd be like, and so I stress test it in like 10, 15 pages, and I'm like going, nope, this whole story's a wash. And I'd rather figure it out like that. So that's how the film world has helped me as a fiction writer. And so learning how to writing the treatment, doing that sort of planning. But then when I sit down to actually write the story, I have to give it all up and just and it's like when you do all the planning, it's like you've done your due diligence. Then creativity, your intuitive creativity goes, okay, here comes the payoff. Just stand back, right? And then it just flows out, right?
You're
But the
describing
work,
what all the woo-woo teachers say about getting out of your own way.
yeah,
Like all the thinking is in the way. So just got to put the thinking down and just let the story flow through. And then with any luck, if you've set yourself up properly and given yourself permission to flow, like the story ends up telling itself.
yeah. I think of stories as like, I think of them as they're alive. Stories, and they are alive. They have a mind of their own, and they want to be told a certain way, and I have to get
Shepherd, right?
I have to get out of the way. Um, the book Canadian Dreadful that you have, which has my story Rebecca Raven, it's a 20-page story. It's a short story. But there's a scene in that I got stuck at the halfway point in that story. I was writing a story about a guy who picked up a girl who was hitchhiking. She was injured, and he was like just wanted to help her out, and they're telling each other their life stories, right? And so I'm going to past tense to future tense. And when I got to the halfway point, I was gonna have her like pull a knife or pull a gun on my main character, and then the ghost of Jason, the driver's dead girlfriend, was going to appear and like take down this chick.
Mhm.
And it had the raven skull in the window and all that, and that was like the spirit was there, and it was going to be this. I tried every which way to get the story to go that way, and it would not budge. I tried to invent a different backstory, wouldn't work, and it would not budge. And it just came, okay, that's not what my story is about. And when and it happened when I was waking up in the morning, and my editor told me, the publisher in Toronto told me, David, you have a week to get your short story done if you want it in this book. Okay, like that's the deadline. So are you going to send me this story or not? And I'm like, I got one, and I'm like, I don't know how to end it. And this is always how the story, because you're forced in that situation to give it up, right? It forces you to get out of your own way. And what happened was I went, oh darn, I better think of something or better not think of something. And I woke up in the morning, I went, wait a sec. What if she doesn't try to kill him? What if something's wrong? I don't want to give away the plot, right? But in case anybody says to read it, what if something's really wrong with her and she's the one who needs help, right? And he discovers that. You know, the instant download? Got it.
Right.
And I ended it that evening, and it was been like 3 months, and I finished it right on the deadline, right? And so that's like sometimes how it's happened with stories for me. But it's like the lesson is like you gotta get out of your own way and learn the tool, like, and there's like tools for getting out. I remember like when I took acting courses, when it's like and you would understand this, of course. I understand this from theoretical, right? But when we were learning lines, because it's hard to be in character because your body is going, that's not me speaking. And my acting teacher, and then you're forcing yourself, right, going like, I'm angry, and it's fake, right? And the teacher was like, take like a cork or an eraser, put it in your mouth, bite on it, now say the line, and it just flowed right out. And actors, I realized, like, they're taught skills to get out of their own way. And I found that, and of course, you know, I only know from studying through courses, but I find that with so much of that is transferable to being a writer. The techniques of getting out of your own way, you know, that
think-
and see that, and that's how I go off on tangents.
It's it. No, but that's good. You're the guest. So you're the one that's supposed to go
Okay.
off on the tangent, and I'm supposed to be listening and not interrupting. But I think that that it's also applicable to life, getting out of your own way when you're in situations, you know, are you thinking about what you should do next, or is that just intuitive and you get in that zone and just do it? Like
Yeah.
the difference between living or dying sometimes, depending on the situation in which you find yourself. Um, so
And I think I can't remember the famous person who said this, but I think it translates to all art forms too. Acting is living truthfully in imaginary circumstances. I don't remember the famous acting teacher that said that, but when I read that, I went, "Hey, wait! That's what fiction writing is. You know, that's what painting is. It's living truthfully, but you're creating something imaginary, but it comes from it's living truthfully. It's reality. It is a form of reality, you
right,
know."
in that fragment of time and space, like in whatever dimension it is, you know. I think we live multidimensionally as humans every day, you know, whatever mental lane one finds oneself on, you know, whether it's gearing to get ready for work, but you're always projecting in what's going to happen or staying a step ahead. So we really are capable of toggling like that as life kind of requires it, I feel like.
Yeah.
Um, but I also feel like creative people um have an easier time recognizing what's happening and right, and then being able to
Oh yeah.
navigate through it rather
Yeah.
than toggling kind of involuntarily and then wondering, What's happening?" You know, I know what I'm trying to say. I might not be saying it well.
I
Um,
find artists are a little more flexible.
yeah, Yeah,
adaptable.
yeah. Well, especially, I mean, what you described earlier, there's this one, that guy up there in the corner, it's kind of hard to see. Uh,
Yeah.
mm, I kept trying to draw a dude, but it's not a dude. So I got stuck on
So
this.
the picture did not want to be a guy, it wanted to be something else.
Exactly. And
And
I
yeah,
got stuck on a black
yeah.
bald dude that sort of looked like Shamar Moore. And I literally took pictures of the drawing at that point, um, and sent it to a couple friends. And I said, am I having like do we know this person? Who is this? Like, what is going on? They're like, no, we don't know who that is, but it has your eyes. And I'm thinking, what? Okay. And then every time I kept trying to force it to be a person, it was not, I couldn't, wasn't happening. And then one day, I just took the nose and sort of made it kind of like an elephant trunk thing. And then it just started. And then it started looking like shells on the head. And then it
Yeah.
just started drawing itself. And of all really weird things, these beings, creatures, or whatever it is that I draw, a lot of times it won't be in a bright room. It'll be by the light of the flickering television. So I'm not even like I can't even see what I'm doing a lot, clearly. So it's a very strange process, but explaining it to you, it's not strange at all. Explaining it to an accountant, maybe a little weird,
Yeah.
right? Or a
They're
investment
more
banker or an attorney or
they're more
linear in a
left brain,
box.
linear, you know? Yeah.
And that's actually for writing. When I've tried to sit down and write, that linear, stop interrupting yourself. Now, it's like not only do you interrupt guests, you interrupt yourself sometimes. Um, the idea, the beginning to the end, the story, blah, blah, and then I start just going off on tangents and I don't know how not to do that. And so setting it up, introducing in the first chapter, and then so I thought, well, maybe I could try to work from the end backwards and then fill in the middle and just try to work out beats. Like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. We can talk about that some other time, not bore people with that. Um,
My I struggle with the same thing. And uh right, like any creative endeavor, I don't think we've ever really mastered them. I think
they
we
master us, man.
they master us. And we like the Super Bowl just happened. The Eagles won, but next football season, it's right back to square one for every team. And this year's Super Bowl don't matter. It's about the games played now. And I find that when I've written a story and I'm happy with it and I know it's good and it gets out there and readers are happy,
Right, doesn't matter anymore. You're on to the next one.
next one,
Right.
and the next story is back to square one. I have to go on a magic mystery hunt and solve the mystery. What is this story? Every time.
See, and that to me, like you're talking to what, 23,000 million gajillion words. Like I can't. Like for me, it's enough to write a couple verses, maybe a bridge and a chorus, and then the music, and then opening up my computer, and then what I end up with is 3 minutes. I guess that's the end of the sentence, 3 minutes. And then if I feel like making a music video, that's a whole other whatever, and however long that takes to shoot and then edit and you know um
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, once it's done, it's done. I mean, you can go back in there and do a different mix, I suppose. I don't know what that would equate to, a different edit. where you remove or put back in stuff that isn't in the first print.
Mhm.
Like sometimes directors come back out with their director's edit, which is digitized or whatever, and the scenes are added in to films. I guess it's kind of like that.
I've actually done that a few times with stories. This collection here, Letters from a Dead World, this came out in 2023, and it is basically a collection of all the short stories I had published in other publishers' anthologies. And when I got my rights back for all of them, I just put them all in one book and sold it to a publisher. And they did it. I love the cover art. I asked them. I said, do a tribute to Fulci, and they did a tribute to Lucio Fulci.
That's
Right?
great.
You know, and for a lot of these stories, the years had gone by since I had originally written them, and I had learned new skills, and I my way of thinking. It thought there's things I could change or just add or like I think that point here, my readers probably won't make a big deal of it, but it's kind of a plot hole to me. I think I want to plug that one up.
Mm.
And so I went through and I just did a revision of all the stories, fine-tuned them. I didn't change the plot or change the characters. I just smoothed everything out, and I believe they're much better than how they appeared like years ago.
Yeah.
But like yeah, a lot of that was a thing, just going in and just giving them all a makeover, right? You know,
Well, which is your prerogative. I mean, and it's nice to when you, I mean, I guess when you get your licenses back in your case, or when you just own everything at like I do at this point, you're the decider. I am the decider. You know, it's not so much when I guess you're a writer working for a team on a thing, or if you've got a project and a director comes and then the production company and then the suits come in and start telling you what you really need to put in there and the product placement, and the next thing you know your script is not even what it was when you first, so you kind of lose control of all of that. But I guess if depending on who you are and where you are in your career, in that kind of situation, um got to earn your dues, and then you get to tell him, then you get to be the decider. You know, but it's nice to just own your own stuff and be able to do what you want with it.
it's liberating, and it's nice to be able to keep all the money.
There's that.
And somebody taking a piece of the going through all the
Although
sticky fingers, right? Yeah.
but see, that's a problem. Like for very famous actors, you know, you get a job, you make $100. Okay, 10% to the agent, 15%, sometimes 20 to the manager. Then if you have an attorney, that's either a 5 or a 10%. Taxes, that's 33%. So for every $100, you're like seeing $5 cash.
Yeah.
It's not okay. It's so parasitic, you know, but the alternative is you don't get to participate. So I don't know. Um, there has to be a better way. Which is kind of why
It
I'm
is
here
a
talking to you, because that way I get to get my on camera
yeah.
yahs out, right? And get to learn stuff. So let's if you don't mind, I want
Sure.
to, as much as you've written, you've probably consumed reading and all the studying you do. Do you mind if I ask you how old you are?
I am 47.
Okay. So you're not a spring chicken, but it's not like you're some 80-year-old guy, but I'm gonna guess you've probably read as much as, you know, or you've read way more than I have. And you've studied and you've gone to school and you've got degrees in theology, and you know the Bible and all this stuff. So I was kind of interested to talk to you a little bit about what do you know, and what do you see, if anything, in the Bible that would translate to us having been visited for all time. Do you see references in there? The heavenly bodies with tails of fire coming and the luminous beings? How is that not what we now call unidentified non-human intelligence? Please. The Book
Those
of
are great
Enoch, for
questions.
example.
Book of Enoch is one of my favorites non-canonical biblical literature. It's not accepted as canon, but it is considered helpful. Even the author of the Book of Enoch said, what I'm writing is not divinely inspired, but later on, books will be written that will be divinely inspired, and those will be the ones to read. And so even the book of Enoch wrote that that the one day we will have a Bible, right? And so I went through a phase where I was like, I checked out everything, right? And every perspective. The scriptures, we have the 66 books of the canon. Yes. Is that a King James?
It is, and this is I'm trying not to interrupt you. I'm trying to interrupt you silently.
Yeah.
I'm just pathological. I'm gonna remove the pin. Hold on. Yeah, it's a King James. It was presented to my ex-boyfriend, Mark Benninghoffen III, from Uncle Jack and Aunt Mary. I think her
Love
name
it.
was Bumpy was her nickname, if I remember correctly. I didn't ask why. But it's a King James Bible. It's a Kenneth Copeland reference edition.
Not a fan of Copeland, but I'm glad it's a
I
King James.
I have no idea what any of this is, what it means, or why. And honestly, I don't know that I would be able to have the patience to sit down and read it. Like if Audible has a version of the Bible on there, maybe I'd.
They do, and there is a good version actually that I can recommend to you later that I use that I use on Audible. Um, so
I mean, there's stuff in red here. That's kind of
those are the words of Christ in red
okay.
in the four Gospels.
He's talking
The
about
words of
hell, into the fire that never shall be quenched. Oh my God,
yeah.
Jesus, literally. What are you talking about, man?
Hmm?
What you talking about?
So we have the way we have. So where do I start? Um,
In the beginning, there was heaven and earth. I don't know where to
okay,
start.
so with the scriptures, there are two terms. One is eisegesis, and the other is exegesis. Now, eisegesis means to impose upon. So think if you have a pool of water, and you bring, say like you bring, um, a bucket of Kool-Aid, and you dump it into the pool. That's eisegesis. You've imposed upon the pool something from the outside. Then there is exegesis, and that means to draw from. And so you're drawing from the pool itself. You're not putting anything into the pool. And so the scriptures contain instructions on the authors of scripture have written in the instructions on how to study the scripture. Just like, when you read Hamlet, Shakespeare, through the characters, when Hamlet is explaining to the acting troupe how to perform the murder of Gonzago, thespians say those are Shakespeare's instructions to us on how to perform his plays. and he incorporates it into the plays themselves. The Bible is similar. The Bible contains the instructions on how to study it within the text itself. So,
And are the instructions to study it literally? Because a lot of organized religions have taken it and made it a very literal thing when I'm not convinced. But I'm
so that isn't that would I can lead to that, and that's another subject, and that comes to the subject of the difference between and that's where we get the subject of fundamentalism. Now, for example, and I'll just save this for later, just keep this in your back pocket, but I interpret the Bible literally, but I'm not a fundamentalist, and there's a difference. And I'll explain why in a little bit. But the instructions to study the scripture, Isaiah writes about line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. And what that means is read everything, like line upon line, and then the precept, the principle upon the next principle upon the next principle. Here a little and there a little. And that means that other books of the Bible are going to contain the answers to what you're reading over here. So it's fragmentary. It's scattered all over, right?
right.
So, okay. And so those are instructions on how to study it. And so that's in the Old Testament. Then also you have the Apostle Paul, apostle to the Gentiles. And one of the most important things he says is that study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So that's the key right there. And that's actually the last book of the New Testament of Paul's letters to be written, was where he said that. It was the book of 2 Timothy, which he wrote to a young bishop. And that's in the New Testament. It says, study to show yourself approved unto God, a worker that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So very important there. Scripture is divided. It's not united. And we have to find the divisions and respect those divisions. And so and I didn't come up with this. I can't remember who I heard it from, but I think the best analogy I've heard to explain that is a traffic light at an intersection. You have a green light, you have a red light, and you have a yellow light. It looks like contradictory information, but it's different information for different lanes. So when you're reading the Bible, you need to know which people group at which time is this speaking to, and then you also have to ask, am I in that group? Because if you're not in that group, it's not talking to you. And a lot of the errors and the craziness you see within Christianity, like, I want nothing to do with these guys, right? It's because they don't rightly divide. They don't rightly divide the word of truth. That's how you get the crazies, because they don't rightly divide.
They've conflated everything together in one and can't separate. Well, like what you were talking about, the 2 Timothy and what they said about the workman not being ashamed and being able to, like that to me felt like, oh, they're trying to talk about discernment and discerning things appropriately and being informed before you start trying to discern. That translates into LIANE speak that way. I don't know if that's accurate.
So I will give you one example. I'll give you two examples. So one more principle to studying the Bible is one more principle to studying the Bible, very important principle. And if anyone with an honest heart, and anybody who has an honest, like you're just an honest-hearted person, approaches the scriptures with that attitude, you'll understand what they're writing about.
Sometimes when
Uh,
people say it out loud and I hear it,
yeah,
and people actually pay attention to the punctuation and speak it slowly and separate the thoughts and don't just ramble it, then I
yes,
understand it.
yes. And so another very important principle in Scripture is the law of first mention. And that is the first time a word or a concept or an image is presented in Scripture, that's the definition throughout the rest of the Bible. So when you read a passage and it doesn't make sense to you, go find where that word or phrase or idea was first mentioned, and there
It's
you
like
will
a
find the
legacy.
definition.
Like,
Yes,
okay, like when you
yeah,
try to figure out a website and how it works, and they show you the legacy. So red means this and blue means that, and
yeah.
first word, just if you get lost, go back to the first word and then figure what that means and then apply it to what you're reading. This is all very linear the way you're coming at it and not.
And so to give you an example, I'll show you uh okay, I'll show you
Do you want to share your screen or do you need to share your screen?
no, it's okay.
Okay.
I have a I believe it's in the book of Luke. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to show you from Luke chapter 13. I'll just give you an example. We're going to go to Luke, and so it's Matthew, Mark, Luke in your New Testament. We're going to Luke chapter 13.
Okay, I've got Luke. Oh gosh, there's lots of red stuff in here again.
Those are the words of Jesus. So we're going to
Talks
start
a
at
lot.
verse 6, and we're going to read to verse 9. And I can read
Okay.
it for you. So this is Christ speaking. He spake also this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon, and found none. Then said he unto the dresser of his vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I have come seeking fruit on the fig tree, and find none. Cut it down. Why cumbereth it the ground? And he answering said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it, and dung it. And if it bear fruit, well. And if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down. What's the fig tree? Who's the vine dresser? Who's the certain man? And who's the dresser of the vineyard? Does this make sense? So let's use the principles. Let's use the principles we've just discussed. And
Okay.
first we're gonna go to the Old Testament.
Oh my gosh.
And okay, and so this is going to be near the end of the Old Testament. And so we're going to go to the book of Hosea, right? The book of Hosea. So keep going past Ezekiel, past Daniel, and you'll come to the book of Hosea.
Okay, I got Daniel. And now I
Yeah,
got Micah. I went too far because
yeah,
Micah's
Micah is too far, little back.
one. What about Amos? That's too far too.
Amos is uh, Amos is a little too far, but you're close. You're in the neighborhood.
There's Joel. Come on. Hosea, I found it.
Yeah.
I
And we
got
go to
it.
chapter 9, and we go to
Oh,
verse 10.
okay.
So chapter 9, verse 10, I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first ripe of the fig tree at her time. So who's the fig tree?
I'm gonna have to. I don't
So,
know.
so the fig tree is Israel.
Okay, the fig tree is Israel, and then her fruit would be the people who live there. No?
The fruit would be their obedience. A lot of times
Okay.
fruit is compared to obedience, but that's okay. And if we go to John, now John is after Luke. John is after Luke, and if we go to, I believe, to John 15.
Okay, but wait, is I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness? Is that the first
Yeah.
word that you're talking about, which then applies to the next thing?
And I found thy fathers like the like the fig tree. I'm
Okay,
not quoting it exactly, but we see that there's an association of a fig tree with Israel.
right.
And
Okay.
so that's how we find the meaning
Okay, by going here and there.
here and there. Yes.
Okay,
And
okay,
so we're
okay.
not imposing our own interpretations onto the text.
We're
We're
allowing the
allowing,
text to speak for itself by going here and there
yes,
and deciphering the puzzle.
yes. That's the key. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got a little ditzy for a minute, but overall, I caught up. Oh my gosh.
I think you're doing amazing actually.
I,
Right?
you know, if I set foot into a church, it would probably break. I don't know.
I doubt that would happen.
Okay, maybe the self-deprecation shouldn't be
Right?
happening. Stop
So
that. Stop it.
uh
Thank you for doing this. You're very patient. Um,
right?
is there anything else you wanted to, did I interrupt? Do we need to go back or can we?
Not at all.
Okay,
Not
then
at
the Book
all.
of Enoch. Why do you think it was removed?
I don't believe it was removed.
What do you think?
It has always been respected um by all throughout Judaism, and it's also been respected by Christians.
Okay.
It it is like there are books like the Book of Jasher, and the book of Jubilees. These are non-canonical books. They're not scripture. They were not inspired by the Holy Spirit,
Okay.
but they are still helpful. They contain history that helps us understand the biblical narrative.
Okay,
And
so they're
and
maybe used like as tributaries to the biblical narrative that just like you accessorize a dress or something, like
yeah,
earrings or a bracelet and right. Okay.
that's actually a great analogy, Leanne. It's a great analogy, what you just
I'm trying
and
really hard as a lay person who's got no theologic. I have theosophic
yeah,
through the Rudolf Steiner school, but that's a whole different
very
theosophy,
different,
right?
right?
Um,
The book of Jude, which is right before the book of Revelation at the back of the New Testament, actually quotes the author Jude, who was Christ's brother. He quotes from the book of Enoch in his own in the book of Jude. So that is the scripture um, giving an endorsement to this non-canonical book,
okay.
right? And so it says here um, in verse, let's see here, verse 14. And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches, which ungodly sinners have spoken against them. That right there is actually a quote from the book of Enoch. Now,
Sounds like they're talking about the fallen angels and all the people that followed them.
yes, bingo. And so you're absolutely correct. And so the author of Jude, the Holy Spirit led him to quote from the book of Enoch. And that confirms for us that the book of Enoch is helpful literature. And Christians and Jews throughout history have always respected the book. But even the author of Enoch, uh, scholars debate on whether it's really Enoch. I believe it is. But greater
Didn't you
minds than me
say,
would.
didn't you say that in the book of Enoch it says that this isn't part of the
That
divine
is right.
whatever, but it instructs
Yes.
books that don't exist yet from the future? Like what we're, didn't you
Yep.
just say that at the beginning?
Yep. And
Okay.
I have a digital version here of Ken Johnson's translation. He is a PhD scholar.
I wonder if that's the one
And
I've been
guess
listening
and
to
guess
on,
what?
it's on Audible.
Awesome. And I have the Ken Johnson version on Audible, and I also have the digital version. And Ken Johnson did a very good translation. And close. And so what he what 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 the Book of Enoch talks about is and this it what chapter is it's 104. It's Enoch 104. And it writes about here, but when they write down truthfully all my words in their languages, and do not change or abridge anything from my words, but write them all down truthfully, all that I testified concerning them, then I know another mystery, that books will be given to the righteous, and the wise to become, sorry, I missed a word, of joy and uprightness and much wisdom. These books will be given to them, and they will believe and rejoice in them. He's right. He's writing that one day we'll get the Bible. These books will be given to them, and they will believe and rejoice in them. And then all the righteous who have learned the paths of uprightness from them will be rewarded. So Enoch himself even says, I haven't, what I'm written is in that book, but those books are coming. And so even the author himself has said, this isn't divinely inspired scripture, but that will one day come. And
But
so
how is he
that's
not
why,
having precognitive psychic experiences if he's not? I mean, this is the vocabulary we would use today. The guy was psychic and he had precognitive. I mean, he might as well have been Nostradamus telling everybody the book is coming. I didn't write it and this isn't divine, but I can tell you it's coming, so just sit tight.
well, Enoch, there's a distinction here, because we have a very helpful book to read that supplements your Old Testament, especially the book of Genesis and Exodus, is the book of Jasher. And
Yeah, you said that before.
Ken Johnson has a very good translation of that as well.
Is that on Audible too?
It is.
Oh,
It
good.
is
That'll be my
Audible.
next credit. I'll
And
get it.
it fills in gaps for you that the Bible doesn't contain, simply because, and here's why. If you and I were to talk about famous figures of today, we wouldn't say their titles, because I would assume you know who Trudeau is. I would assume you know who Putin is.
Right.
I don't need to say what his title is. But if somebody listened to this podcast thousands of years from now, and they read and they listen, oh, Putin, Trudeau, this politician or whoever, they would have to do research.
Right, because there's no point of reference.
No point of reference. And so in the scriptures, it talks about Adam and Seth, his son, talks about Cain, talks about, Methuselah, this lineage of people that leads up to Enoch. I believe Methuselah was after. I don't have it all. I'll have to reference that, looking at that. But Noah's sons, all these people, they were kings. The Bible doesn't say that because it assumed that the audience of the time it was written to knew that. Us, thousands of years later, have to do the research to go, oh, Noah was
the king's list. You can go find that somewhere.
Yes.
Right.
And so from Adam to Enoch, that was the godly line. That was the godly channel channel. That was the godly line that Yahweh revealed his word to, right? And when we get to, like, say, for example, Noah, Noah's father thought maybe my son will be the Messiah that was promised in the Garden of Eden, that will bring rest, so we don't have to have to work by the sweat of our brow anymore. And so Noah means rest. Noah was a prefigure of Christ, but he was not the Christ. And so Noah, so we see that these antediluvian or pre-flood patriarchs, they all knew that the Messiah was coming because of the promise made in the Garden of Eden. And so what happens is that was a channel where a very distinct truths were revealed that were about the coming of a kingdom, the restoration of the earth.
I'm still hearing they were all psychic and having precognitive experiences and sticking by their story.
Now so from like obviously I'm coming from a Christian perspective,
Am I
right?
killing you with
No,
the?
you're
Okay.
absolutely not at all.
I'm sorry.
Not at all.
Like I don't want to
So
be disrespectful. That's the one thing
not at
I
all.
don't want to do.
I'm so we have
Might be failing miserably.
I think what a great book I read on the subject, and it's like as thin as your pinky finger thickness, right? You could probably listen to it on Audible. It's a book by Watchman Nee. He was a Chinese evangelist, and
Wow.
he lived like in the early 1900s. He was, because China was communism, and he was persecuted, locked up for his faith and all that. But he wrote books, and one of his books he wrote, I think you may find interesting, is The Latent Power of the Soul. And and it's a very fascinating book where he writes about where he deals with things like psychic powers. And he says that before Adam fell, he would have had abilities like precognition, he would have had telepathy, he would all these things. But at the fall, Satan wanted access to those abilities. And
So it's latent in the human species as a result.
Yeah. And so God to protect us, cut that off in us, not in the sense cut it off, but made it dormant. And so
dormant, latent.
And so what he so in his book, and his book's talking about, it's the Holy Spirit. So the believer who has the Holy Spirit, they yield those abilities to God instead of trying to activate it themselves. And so because we don't want to allow the enemy to access those powers and use us for his purposes, right? And so, for example, I'll tell you a story about when I was younger. I had drug problems, and I got involved in a lot of psychotropic drugs. I have experienced telepathy, hearing, all those sort of things, and I was a believer at the time. Okay, but I was caught up in these things, and what happened was there was a woman I knew, and we could communicate telepathically, and I could go meet her, like she would tell me, meet me on this street at this corner, and I would leave my mind, I'd leave the house, go to that corner, and there she'd be.
I have a question. Was she also neurodivergent? Because I feel like
she was. And
okay, but
she
see, this
sure
is
is.
it. Like this goes back to the telepathy
thing.
tapes, man. It's like
Yeah.
where you guys meeting in the hill? Come on.
And so what happened is so I'm aware that human has these abilities, but so for me as a believer in Christ, I go like, Lord, you tell me to take up my cross daily, so I lay these down at your feet. They are for you to act when it's your time. If you want to speak to me or reveal to me, or if you want to, like sometimes like a Christian, a friend will like be in trouble, and I'll just sense I need to pray for that person, right? Because I only want these spiritual abilities to be only accessed by the Holy Spirit, right?
For good, not for nefarious reasons.
For good.
I understand.
Yes. and so I'm not so like so from my perspective, how I see it, I understand that these phenomenon have a place in the human experience. I yield them, I surrender them to Christ,
See,
right?
and like,
And
okay, and in LIANE speak, that's, before you go and start remote viewing and before you start doing your thing, you make sure that your energy is clean and you've got your deflector shields up and you make the statement that if anything's nefarious energy, it's not welcome in the name of Jesus Christ or however you want to say it, purple flame. Like there are things one can do and say and practice before one goes and does whatever, you know. When I say whatever, remote viewing, astral projecting, out of body experiences, that kind of thing. Um, and as long as you make sure that you are not open to being used by some nefarious entity, it's pretty safe to go do that. Like, and people who
it,
are intuitive, like you'll feel if there's something whack and you can
yeah, you will feel
so
it.
fast,
Yes.
so fast. It because
Especially
this.
neurodivergents like us. Bam.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how you go out to a supermarket and you just look like a normal person, but people like neurodivergent people don't always come off weird until you start talking to them and then they put like three thoughts together in one and the sentence comes out whack, right? And then another neurodivergent can understand exactly what you just said.
Exactly what they're saying. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
people will just look at you and say that is completely unintelligible and could you s say that again, like more clearly?
You're describing my whole life, Leanne.
I know, and mine too, which is probably why we sit well together. I have
Yeah.
another friend named Randall Kirsch who happens to be a wonderful musician and just such a kind soul. But he's also neurodivergent. I think a lot of artists are a lot of people who um, tend to bend toward more creative uh, jobs, vocations, that was the word I was looking for, are probably tend to be neurodivergent, like, and that's on the spectrum, so theoretically, how autistic are we? Who knows? Like, it's a thing, like, and I think that autism is actually seen incorrectly.
Yep.
And back to the telepathy tapes. Oh my goodness gracious. Have you heard those at all?
I think we're going through a phase like in this past, especially in the past 10 years, where people are beginning to rethink a lot of things,
Well,
especially like
changing the vocabulary helps a little bit.
vocabulary,
Right.
like I remember like recently, like, I mean, I've been like learning a lot about like self-healing
Hmm.
and following like licensed therapists that talk about that sort of stuff, and it's helped me greatly. And like last year and the year before last, I just like marathon Cheers, and it took me about a year. And just I want to go down memory lane, but I got so much out of it now that I'm grown up and I understand things I couldn't have understood as a kid.
Hmm.
But when I watched that, there were episodes of about Diane and how loopy she was, and the stigma in the 80s against mental health. You're going to a therapist? You're not. No, it's like going to a mechanic. You need to get your vehicle to your mind. You have to take care of it. You have to
Right.
maintain it,
Well, that's
right?
the thing. I mean, I think society's really been fractured. That brings me back to all of my conspiracy chat with Leanne, conspiracy chat with Lee. But the social engineering, the MK Ultra, the use of frequencies. I sound like a crazy person. I'm not. They
Some,
know how to use
but
it. They've harnessed all this stuff. They put the particulates in the air, the fog that shows up out of nowhere, thick. I couldn't see New Jersey yesterday. Like, but it, was preceded by contrails. No, chemtrails. No, particulate trails. They're doing something for sure. 100 million%.
I tend to agree. I tend to agree. I
TARP.
I try to I try to not jump to too fast to conclusions, but I know things are going on.
Yeah, something's not right,
persuaded. Yeah,
you
I'm
know.
persuaded. Yeah.
And the fact that we don't understand energy truly, like the speed of thought is much faster than the speed of light, which we thought was the fastest thing. The speed of thought is much faster, you know, and thoughts are waveforms that carry information, you know, and then like when it goes back to disclosure, you hear people talking about craft that are sentient, and then you hear Greer talk about this guy who came to him with this machine, which was tantamount to technology assisted consciousness, you know, and then there's consciousness assisted technology, and those two things are very different, but in the same realm, you know.
Yeah.
And you hear about P3s from other countries. First, it looked like they were being trafficked by this Michael Herrera, but then now we're hearing that these people go willingly and they're treated very well. It's like, yeah, but if you're going to ask somebody to go into a frequency, a mind state like gamma, theta, alpha, all those are different frequencies, right? That's just all back to energy again. And staying in that state when human beings are basically for how many thousands of years in our DNA, we're running at a certain whatever. But like when you put somebody in gamma and keep them there for the purpose of taking over a craft in a sentient manner, like with consciousness assisted technology. I mean, and then the reverse engineering, and it's crazy what they can do. And then we still have people running around going, psychic, that's not real. And I just want to scream a lot because like we're using Wi-Fi right now. How's that real? If psychic isn't
Well,
real, then
it's
neither's Wi-Fi. Like
the the when you say the powers that be, well, who are they? But
the people who
I
understand about
understand it to be
frequency
number
and
one. It's I like from my perspective, I understand it to be, because I'm informed biblically. I understand it to be like, first of all, it's the God of this world. It's the devil. It's his fallen angels, and it is those in power and those who are just everyday people who are in allegiance with that.
what my friend Robert Stanley talks about all the time. And basically, you know, it's a temporal war. What the temporal war has been going on forever, and how it translates into the physical world, you know, the distraction on social media, um, putting your attention on the physical world as if it's the be all and end all.
And it's not.
It's not sustainable. The only thing that's sustainable is realizing for me as an agnostic that I'm the awareness and I'm a consciousness. And then my ego comes and my physical body is a tool and so is my ego. Like, and once that starts running me instead of me running those, it's
Yeah.
over. Game over. You're on the conveyor belt of getting chomped up by whatever it is. So, you know, my friend Robert Stanley, he's got the Unicus report that he puts out. And he's constantly sending me videos, like Breitbart stuff, and like I
Yeah.
can't think of the name of these people, but you know, they're not nuts. There's something going on. Even Greg Braden, who also comes at it from an agnostic thing, like this whole transhumanism stuff, chips, the internet. I mean, and you and I use it, right? But honestly, I've always said the World Wide Web is some fake version of consciousness. Like you can manifest stuff, or you can go on the web and point and click your mouse and have it delivered at your front door. Which one are you doing? The one that happens divinely when you're uh in line with source, or the one where you don't have to be in line, you just go on the thing, you get lazy, it's sloth. I guess what is referred to as sloth and lust and
We were having a chat a few days ago
you and
about
I.
yeah, you and I, about how the possibility that the reason why the all-seeing eye symbol within the pyramid,
Dollar
it
bill.
is on the dollar bill and is an entertainment because they're giving us a substitute,
A false eye.
a false eye instead of the because when
The
and I
external
the
eye
way I
as opposed
understand
to
it is
your
when
internal eye.
yeah, and so here's a substitute for that, and so bombarded with entertainment, social media, Amazon addiction, right? Which are all structured like the spirit world, but they're a counterfeit, right? And keeping us trapped in like we only acknowledging the physical aspect of reality, which is a trap,
Right.
right?
Well, it's a trap to keep you indentured, you know? It's like mental conceptual slaves that force you to put yourself in whatever loop that benefits the infrastructure.
Yeah, just go on the treadmill, you know.
Right. Pretty much. Go on the treadmill, and when you stop walking, we have no use for you. Bye.
Yeah.
It's
Don't become aware of yourself. Don't become aware of spiritual things.
But
Just
see, the thing is when people do become
yeah,
aware of themselves and the spiritual things, there's nothing from the outside world that can actually hack you once you realize who and what you are, that you're spirit first before you're physical, you're spirit. Like before you have a book out, there's an idea. Where's the idea come from? It's like it's not your brain. Your brain processes the idea, but it's not in your brain. Like where's it coming from?
hmm,
Like when you try to make it in your brain, that's when the drawing stops. It's when the writing stops. So, I don't know. I have to stop saying I don't know because I do know. Believe, think, and know. Those are three very different things too, you know.
there's even a knowing and believing. There's a knowing in not knowing, but believing and acting on belief. There's a wisdom. There's a knowledge in that.
It's an inner
Yeah,
knowing.
yeah.
I think we're born with that. I think that's something that never leaves us, but I think it's
I
something that
agree.
gets buried.
The
Um,
system wants to bury that, right? Yeah.
well, this is probably why I've never really done well in the system, and the system doesn't like me very much, but I'd rather be disliked for who I am than loved for who I'm not. Oh, system, you.
I tend to be of the same mind. I think we share similar experiences in that.
Yeah, but we're both, we're wired in a manner that allows us to go here and there to be able to assess. A lot of people can't, they're stuck in the one lane,
Yeah.
but they don't know that they're stuck in one lane. They think they're eating all the flavors. Really, they're just not. It's just one flavor.
It reminds me of the frog in a well analogy. The frog looking up at he's in the well and he's always lived in the well and he's looking up at the night sky and he thinks he sees the entire sky, but he only sees
Like the little
the little circle of the well's board. That's all the sky he sees, but there's a whole broad sky out there.
It's like the frog version of the Truman Show.
Yeah, yeah. Very interesting movie. Very interesting movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. If that wasn't some kind of mind,
Oh, are we ready to go there?
I'm ready to go just about anywhere at this point. I mean, I guess the ability and permission to go anywhere comes from hopping off the treadmill. It's a
Yeah.
scary thing. Like,
Yeah.
but the unknown really is very exciting and a beautiful thing if you can lean into it. I feel like, you
I
know.
find the same. Yeah. And
Uh-oh, come
I
here.
think that like really learning is always realizing you don't know. And there's more to learn about a specific thing,
Which
right?
is exciting. It's
Um,
like saying you can never really arrive because there's always like the next level
yeah.
of the game to beat for you gamers out there, right? There's always another
And
level.
for a fellow like me who's a Bible student, one of the things when I was reading Exodus and I was reading about the manna that fell from the sky to feed the Israelites as they're that bird is beautiful.
That's Diva
That
Bird.
bird
Yeah.
is her name Diva?
Yeah.
Hi Diva. She's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Gorgeous.
She's the oldest one, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the manna and the word manna means what is it? And scripture is called bread. It's the food that feeds us. So when I read that, I went, wait a sec. That I understood that as an instruction. We never assume, like every time I study the Bible, every time I open it, I go, what is it? Because they receive manna every day. And what is it? Always be willing to learn. Never think you have it all figured out. Always be willing to have like a teachable spirit that knows that there's more to understand. You know.
I wholeheartedly agree.
You know.
You know, so much expansion to be had if you're not distracted by the material world. And expansion doesn't necessarily mean, again, physical stuff. You can expand the concepts, you can expand the amount of information, but like what you do with that, how you turn around and apply it to your life or choose not to, if it doesn't work, you know. Um, there's so much joy in the journey, especially when you can, it's so very Eckhart Tolle, but it's true. Just be present in every moment best you can and not let the thoughts take you off into some imaginary place that's not pleasant, and then start believing it. And the next thing you know, I knew that was going to happen. Well, were you being intuitive or did you set yourself up? 9 times out of 10, because we don't pay attention to what we're thinking and what our intentions are, because we're not here now, we're yesterday, and then this happened and it made me feel this way, but then what's going to happen tomorrow? And slippery slope.
Out of the heart flow the issues of life. You know.
Do you know about the Heart Math Institute? Do you know anything about them?
I don't know. I've never learned about that. What is that about?
Heart Math Institute promotes heart coherence because your brain a lot of times is instructed by your heart. Like our heart has the electromagnetic charge, it's where the emotional center is. And we're taught so much that the intellectual thoughts are the whole deal, but the emotions that accompany the thoughts, the combination thereof, is what create the state of being. So if your heart coherent, chances are you'll be thought coherent, and chances are you won't be in survival mode all the time. Is the brushstroke general. And there are so many things you can do, and it's just a really cool place. Um, there's this little monitor that you can hook to your ear that I guess works off of the pulse. And you can hook it into the app and you can do breathing exercises where you're breathing in and breathing out, and it gets you into a space of non-thinking and just being very in tune with your breath. And Next thing you know, it's like a little video game that you can play. But what
Okay.
happens is that it regulates, you end up self-regulating because you've now put yourself into a completely different heart mind space. So it promotes heart coherence and being able to really tune in and tap in, um, which in turn allows people to um, respond rather than react in situations, right? It
Yeah.
gets a lot of, right, and it helps like if you've had trauma, it helps a lot, you know. So yeah, definitely one of the things.
I just entered that into my Google search and I have the list of links so that I can learn more
Oh,
about that.
yeah.
Thank you. One thing that helped me, and I believe it was Dr. Nicole LaPera.
Mm,
Uh, she she she's got a couple books out now. She's got really cool Instagram posts that even the Instagram posts are just really helpful. I forget what this is called. But it's where you focus your eyes. So it's like when a person is, say, frightened or anxious, when the body's dysregulated,
mm.
the pupils contract, and then doing because you got to hyper focus and be aware of your environment. And so these simple movements where you look this way and then up, down, and all that, it helps to expand your pupils and tell your body you're safe.
Gotcha. Does she
To
incorporate breath work with that?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and she teaches different things, and I found that learning those sort of things as well have really helped to just like, you know, when I'm in a situation or my mind is going somewhere where it's like I'm just being like triggered from something that happened in my childhood probably, but it's just a matter of like telling my body you're safe right now. It's
Yeah,
okay.
and whose job is it to do that? I mean, I feel like when people take responsibility for self-soothing in the moment when they notice that they're feeling traumatized or triggered, um, it really empowers you, and the more self-reliant, right, the better you can discern. It just helps everything not be
It
so
helps everything.
out of control, right? Because
Yeah.
it feels out of control out there a lot, and I know right now there's so much with the political climate. Like a lot of people are scared, so many people are angry, and to just disengage with that doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean that you're in denial. It just means that you know how to just know that it's going to be there in 20 minutes when you're done meditating. You don't have to take it into your meditation or into your, I'm just going to not think for 10 minutes. That's your space, allowing things to encroach. And then watching how you allow things to encroach and then observing all of that neutrally in that quiet space without judging it and getting to a point where you can change the behavior because you notice it. And then,
Yeah.
right. And then that just becomes autopilot. And then there's just a certain way of thinking that you adopt. So that you don't have to go through all of those steps, you just know better in that moment, like, oh, it's happening again. Okay, just take a breath, reframe, regroup, just right. And that's what,
It's
our
it
neuroplasticity, like we can rebuild what's going on in your head. It's how you rewire
it's the
yourself.
psychological version of muscle memory.
Exactly. And when you can't, because there's the neuroplasticity is there, you can rewire your brain, but it really takes a lot of discipline between the ears and a
Oh yeah.
lot of self-compassion and the ability to train yourself to observe behavior about yourself that you don't like and that you do like neutrally, right?
Yeah.
That
Being neutral even about the things you do like.
exactly right. I know actors who never read reviews because they don't want to spike, and I can't believe she said that, or oh, puff, puff, puff. It's like it's not about that. We just do our work, and what other people think about us is their story, for the good, for the worse, for the whatever it is. It's not personal. People don't understand when I say it's not personal. There's a family member that doesn't speak with me an awful lot. And then, well, don't you take offense at that? And don't you? No, it's not personal. It's about them and their capacity to expand enough to incorporate what they don't consider to be normal and might threaten them. But that's all what they're thinking. Like, who are you hanging out with? What do they think? When you try to explain your family structure to your friends and they just kind of side eye you and then you get all uncomfortable, well, what inflexibility in you causes you to hang out with inflexible people, which then cause you to not want to talk about your family because it's a little weird. Has nothing to do with your
Who
family.
we surround ourselves with is so
It's
important.
like it's the same thing. It's mind food. It's the water seeks its own level. Will neutrally observe your water, and maybe you're uncomfortable because really you know that you're bigger than that, but don't know how to quite get there.
Yeah.
It's all a work in
I
progress,
find that if,
you
yeah,
know.
I find that if I feel uncomfortable in a group or with a, like when I was younger, I'd say, what's wrong with me? Now I go, my intuition is telling me, my instincts are telling me I'm not comfortable. I'm not say I trust that. So I am not going to engage,
Right.
you
It
know?
doesn't mean you
And
don't love the people or whatever that are doing whatever that is, but that's just not part of their freeway lane, and you're the radio station that you want to be tuning into for whatever reason. You
yeah,
know, this stuff it's like such subtle stuff sometimes, but when you get used to being aware of intuition stuff, it can get really loud. I know people who think really loud. Like I know when they're thinking about me because I can hear them.
and distance doesn't make a difference.
No, it doesn't, because information and energy is not localized. It's non-local. That's what quantum stuff teaches us, if we care to
Yeah.
incorporate that. Which I hope,
Yeah.
I hope one day we go to school not to learn how to be the same and line up and get on the treadmill and don't ask questions. Because people say that's not what it is, but actually it really is. School teaches us how to conform, and the nonconformist who can stick it out um, will likely be the one that also has a plug into the intuitional area, you know?
Yeah. A lot of times when we're young, we recognize things, but we don't have the vocabulary to describe what we know. And then as we get older, we gain the vocabulary and go, that's what I knew. That's what I saw. I just didn't know how to say it.
Hmm.
And I find that intuition and that, just that um like, is it even into, like, I think of it as just like I am a spirit, soul and body, and my spirit, that's how it works. It's just being what it is. You know what I mean?
Right. And I
Like,
guess like you can
of course
translate
I
that.
sense that, or of course I know that person is thinking of me, because my spirit is just being my spirit.
Right.
It's what it does, you know?
Right. Because it's a fractal of source, and source knows everything. Like I think that little shard of being made in the image of, I think that's what that means, is when you're not bogged down with all of your human stuff, and just feeding spirit and allowing it to work through you. without all the contrived narratives that are put out there to cause us to conform into this material stuff, you know. Yeah, it's a good place. It feels good to be there. You know, I mean, I know there are times because we're in bodies and we are in the 3D world, we do have to go to the grocery store and we do have to make sandwiches and we do have to like eat food. There is that. And finding a balance um is probably a good idea. It's hard though in the world when the biofeedback is conform, conform, conform. And I think as young children, we also don't want to stick out and be the weirdo, you know? So when we know better
How
on
did
the
that work?
inside, but we see everybody else doing something, you just want to be cool and just go under the radar, right? And that got me in trouble a lot, not being my authentic self because it was weird. You know, I didn't realize that that was a good thing. It felt not good.
I had a similar journey. Oh, like when you're describing things, it's like I relate, and it's like yes, I know how that feels. Like when I was a young guy, you know, in teens and early 20s and all that. Like he's like the way I'm wired to study, to read, to write, to do creative things, and I thrive in solitude. Like I can spend a week by myself. Like every few months, I'll be like, "Hey, to a friend, you want to go for coffee and just hang out?" Sure. Maybe tomorrow, sure. Because like it's been 3 months. Yeah, I just need to recharge my social batteries, have a little visit, and I'm good for another 3, 4 months.
You know, my friend Michael Lynn, who's also a writer, mind you, uh,
Yeah.
he said the same thing to me. He said, "I'm going out to have drinks with my friend, my supervising producer. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I don't go out a lot," he said. But it's always good every once in a while to just go out and, you know, and then I come back and then just get back to my reclusive self. But I think a lot of people I know right now have turned into more reclusive people than they once were. I
Yeah.
know when I was younger, it wasn't like that. I couldn't be home. I couldn't be home alone. I had to keep moving. I had to always be at a friend's house, always be doing something. I could not sit still with myself. Now that's all I want to do. It's like I'm making up for all the time, all the time I couldn't sit still, you know, but I really do. I enjoy my own company. Um, Maybe that's
It's so
strange.
important to become your own friend,
I think so.
you know.
I think so. I've learned that. You know, it becoming your own friend actually gives you a visceral understanding of you've got to love yourself or you can't love anybody else. And when you're so busy
Yeah.
trying to conform and be who everybody wants you to be so that you can, you know, be under the radar and be a good little whatever and make the money and this and that, and that's not who you really are. It makes you mentally ill. It fractures you. It just does.
Yeah.
So having the luxury of solitude and learning that that's not the deal has been so amazing. I'm very, very grateful. Very grateful for how things have unfolded thus far, even with all the cuckoo.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you got to be cuckoo to understand what coherent is.
Yeah. And the cuckoo doesn't seem cuckoo until you get out of it.
Exactly. And then what
Yeah.
everybody else told you was cuckoo is actually the deal.
Yeah.
Right? Because your
Yeah.
particular brand of cuckoo is probably your purpose is involved with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, this has been a pretty cool talk, and we've been going for a minute,
We
almost
sure
two
have.
hours.
It's 2 hours. Yes.
Almost. Almost.
Almost. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, where can people come find you at your, I'll put it all in the description.
they can come find me at my website, which is I can put it in the chat for you. Oh, it's there.
It's there.
It's just
And I'll put it like
David.
when I eventually cut this and put the beginning and the end and try not to mangle your bio like I do everybody else's. God.
And they can find my books listed on my website, and they can also find my my books on Amazon. I have an author page on Amazon, so all my books are available through there. And I hope it brings readers as much joy as I had in writing them. I find that oh, and speaking of creativity, and one thing I've learned, and I've learned this in recent years, LIANE, is that we have to have goodwill towards our audience, or the
100%.
creativity will be blocked. And I say this because I was an angry young man, and I liked horror and heavy metal, and I wanted to traumatize you. And you know what? Right? Grr, I'm mad, and my art.
Like the angry astronaut, and remember to stay mad about space, he says every time. And
Yes,
I'm like,
and you know what? That will block you,
what?
because to be creative, you have to have your audience's goodwill. And so what I've learned to do is to take all that anger and I give it to my villains in my stories, and let them, and I portray it through the villains, and and let the story serve as, without being forceful, but let them serve as caution. Don't become
Cautionary
like that.
tale, right? It's a
Yes.
cautionary tale. Don't be that guy. Don't be,
And so
and it's
you
also
learn
a
how
good
to,
way to deal with your own feelings and then let them
yeah,
out and let them out through somebody else's persona, which you've created. I mean, really, when you write, do you think that you're writing about different facets of yourself and just giving them different voices?
I
The
think so.
characters?
I tend to believe that's what's going on. And
Not to
I
launch
tend
back into a conversation
Yeah. Oh, we
that
could go on for hours. We could go
because
on for hours.
but yeah,
It'd
so
be
if you
like
want to know all about David, just, read all of his stories, and that's all about the different. He's Sybil. It's great. I'm kidding.
yeah.
I'm kidding. It's not funny, maybe. Maybe it was. Maybe it was a little bit funny. You're not Sybil. Thank God.
I like to
Pun
I like
intended.
to I when I was studying English literature, one of the instructors taught us that the purpose of stories is to entertain. You want to give people a good time, to educate, which is to teach moral lessons, and to heal. And so when I approach a story, no matter how like grim, because I write horror, I ask, how can I, is this entertaining? Is this giving moral instruction? Like, is it a positive moral message? It doesn't have to be overt, but it's there. And can this heal somebody? How can this heal somebody? Those, I allow that to be my guiding stars, those three principles when
I
I
love
write.
that. That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, you know,
Especially when it's juxtaposed against, I'm a horror writer. But I guess, that's your spirit shining through your work,
yeah.
you know? So kind of you to spend time with me and this audience. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your linear time with this chat. I'm sure if anybody has questions, just send them on over, and maybe one of these weeks, if it's convenient, and works for David's schedule, we can have you on a live and do some Q&A from people who have questions for you, should they have any.
I'd love to do that, LIANE.
All right, okay, cool. In the meantime, you guys keep riding the frequency, and we'll see you soon. So I just had to come back, and I don't know where I'm going to edit this in. Maybe it can be a blooper. So, David, you wrote Canadian Dreadful, and you have a story in here, and I just have to say, like, I'm very grateful that you sent it to me. And my bird also enjoyed your book very much.
I see that.
Eva, what do you have to say for yourself? Told you, parrots.
I have a fan in the animal kingdom.
Yeah, you do. Diva Bird likes David Tocher's work. Okay, don't just really. And cut. Well, folks, David and I actually continued talking for another 45 minutes. And some of the things we talked about, I'm kind of sad that we didn't record, but we can always have him come back. One of the things that came up was the book Canadian Dreadful, and I insisted in the interview that he sent it to me in LA. However, he reminded me after we stopped recording that he had sent it to here, New York. So I went to my bookshelf and remembered that my bird also very much enjoyed this book. Yeah. You like that book? No. She's trying to do it again. Birds. In any event, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll be back at you next time. So keep riding the frequency, and remember, you're the awareness.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you one?
Frequency, frequency, frequency.
I'm the